want to go home.
Yeah.
And then as you do that, that's when you crack open the DNA. So as you go through these tests and you start to master yourself and you're dealing with every choice and every judgment and everything we've ever done, and you're getting tested over and over and right through the coals, eventually you start to actually remember things instead of tune into them and channel or, like tap in. You start not to do that. You start to have this overwhelming feeling from within that you can't shake, that it's so real that it's not even funny, and that's the rememberings.
There's
And that's where everything begins, because as we start to crack into our DNA and start to get the rememberings, we're becoming much closer to merging with our higher self. That's when we're in the phase of like we're pushing it, it's like up and down, up and down, up and down, push and pull. And that's the multidimensionality, because every single word we speak takes us to a different dimension for the most part.
it's
And also multidimensionality for another aspect of it is, I can live in 8D right now, and I can tune down into 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, wherever I need to tune into, and work
being
with a person.
attached to nothing and open to everything is
Totally,
where the
right?
power lies because you said I know nothing. All the masters said that. And there, if we dive deeper into that, the reason it holds so much power is because everything exists in the nothing, in the metaphysical, in the quintessence, because we see the effects in the 3D reality, but the
Exactly.
causation happens in the subconscious, in the quintessence, beyond what our uh, five senses can sense. Like
Which is neat.
it,
You just brought
because
up
if we
subconscious.
if we saw everything, we couldn't handle that. You know what I mean? Like if we actually saw everything all at once, it needs to filter it out. If people
Well, you
saw
can, until
all
you
of
get to a
that,
point where you can.
when they're ready, but
Yeah,
if
when you get to a
most
point,
people
yeah.
saw everything that is actually going on at its actualization, it would create a state of just
Well,
we
that's going to
wouldn't be able
happen
to
actually
handle it.
soon. So that's going to happen very soon down the road for humanity. That's what the biggest point of this mass collective awakening is about. And that's why everybody's realities are collapsing. And that's why if you talk to anybody right now, their reality is collapsing inside themselves. They might not admit
Yeah.
it, but you can see they're not focused anymore. They're all over the place. And what happens when you see people like that? Is it because they're going through a lot of trauma and a lot of stuff inside and they won't talk, and all of a sudden they shut down and they're crappy at work and they're not doing what they normally do? It's because everything's coming up inside. And that's the biggest part of this mass collective awakening is, I used to talk about solar flares and like, okay, get ready. You're going to get, you're going to either going to get tons of triggers and be like really activated inside to see all your stuff and deal with it, or you're going to go into like a bliss mode. Well, now it's like every day. And it doesn't matter if it's a solar flare or planetary alignments. Those are helping a lot, but it's even bigger than that. It's like the entire universe just said, it's time to come home. And so the outer reality is going to keep collapsing in on itself, and truth is just going to keep coming up at a certain point. Because if it doesn't all start to come at once, humanity will just get used to it over and over, and they'll just be like, "Okay, take me here now." And so like we built a piece into this because we all built the ending to this together as one, right? We're getting to this point where we knew, as I see it, we knew like how manipulated everything was going to be and how people would actually fight to keep their ego reality.
And
And so we built.
there's no motion in the moment when people fight because it
Right.
creates resistance.
Exactly. So if you were to get everything at once and everything was to collapse kind of together, but there was a lead up to it and everybody had the choice to pay attention or not, that means they were given the choice and they avoided. And so whatever anybody experiences going forward is a product of all of their choices because everything's out there. If you really want to look like what's going on in the world and how things are built and structured, the outside reality is going to start to collapse, and it's going to start to collapse very quickly in on itself, like altogether.
Produce,
And it
product.
has to,
Well, that
because
makes
that's the
sense.
only way humans will get right. It's kind of
For
like, when I was talking about like healing and getting thrown to the floor and like getting like pinned to the floor by your higher self until you actually work through something.
yeah,
That will have to happen to humanity before they'll stand up and actually come together. Because when you get pushed to the corner and you can't take it anymore, you'll fight for it. And we have to fight to keep this reality. Nobody gets a walk in the park. Nobody. And I'm not trying to say that to freak
well,
anybody out.
freedom's
We
not
all
free.
we
We
came coded to do this.
we've had to fight
Exactly. We
like
came coded to do this.
the amount of spiritual warriors during Corona that fought for freedom, because if everyone just laid down and took it, we wouldn't be at the position that we're at now. And they're still
No.
trying and they're still trying in the background. There's so much stuff. I look forward to the day where people don't actually care what the government has to say about what you can and can't do, because they're basing it off of people's conscious volition and free will to choose whether or not that is the outcome in their reality. They're just talking. They don't have to attach to anything that they say, but they're choosing to do it.
Right. Totally. But now, so now bring in all the frequencies that I'm talking about that are coming in daily now. So it's not just like waiting for the moon to go and waiting for like a solar eclipse. Like most people wait for these things to do things, but
Yeah.
consciousness is working every second of every moment. Like time doesn't exist. It's like, why don't you do that now? Why are you waiting for the full moon to do your intentions? Why are why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And
Yeah.
so everything is converging. Let's say everything's converging huge, and you got all these frequencies pushing down, and it's forcing humanity to awaken. And now, let's just look at it like this, I guess.
Yeah.
Collective humanity is now in a complete dark night of the soul. All of humanity now is being pushed into a dark night of the soul because it's the only way that it pushes people awake. Some will resist and some will fight till the cows come home, but eventually, very soon, it starts to converge because everything outside starts to get so big, so fast, so many things at once, not just one or two. Not like Corona, like you said. It's going to be way more things colliding because then the human can't take it anymore. But you've got the frequencies pouring through that are waking up humanity at the same time.
Yeah.
So you got a whole whack of people now coming through from 4D, starting to begin their embodiment process of 5D, which takes years, right? There's not many people like hanging on to like living in 5D. There's not as many as people might believe there is because they haven't got rid of the ego.
It's the singularity, the harmonic convergence singularity, because if people have been avoiding, now Source comes along and says, okay,
You're not anymore.
what do we need to do? Because this is where the overall frequency is. And if people are in a pool, right? Let's use the analogy of a whirlpool where they came
Yeah.
up with the word the world. It's
Yeah.
it's a whirlpool, right? They have to go with wherever the conscious currency is flowing. They're in that energy. So they're all the people that have done the inner work now are setting the stage, right? The world's the stage.
We're
And
holding the
now,
frequencies of New Earth inside of us and we're emanating and these
yeah,
frequencies are pouring out for anybody who's ready to receive those.
it doesn't take much. I was looking into a bit of the past and how they actually used to heal. I shared it in my group actually, but the where is it here? The Maharishi effect. They did 600 scientific studies in 33 countries, 33 master number, right? In over 250 independent research institutions. And they found through synchronized group prayer meditation that has an extremely positive social, political, and economic benefits, correlations with health benefits to the individual, and it only requires 8% of the populace to affect the entire planet. 7,000 people meditating created a field effect of harmonious coherence that spread throughout the entire collective, which reduced terrorism and disruptive energy. That's powerful because
Super
they're
powerful.
shifting the entire field just by practicing
Kind of.
mindfulness or
Kind of.
embodiment.
Well, kind of.
There's more
Because
to it.
you can never get away from every single person alive holds all their trauma and all their victim and all that stuff, right? So it's a momentary shift where instead of being in a disempowered state, they come into an empowered state, which opens up a piece of the field, but it's very temporary.